welcome to April 5th, 1941. I'm Henry Chap, your host, and I will tell you what we have coming up in just a minute and one half. If you enjoy the content on this channel, not only subscribe, but please donate to its upkeep. Because of the vintage old-time radio, films, and music that we feature, this channel does not qualify for YouTube monetization. Help motivate us to keep posting this wonderful content and seeking out more. We'd like to think that this channel is more interesting than any other nostalgia channel of a similar type. Help us keep going by donating. In the description section of this video, you will find a secure link to PayPal. Any little bit helps. Thank you for your support. If you love old-time radio, film, and music, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as to when a new upload will premiere. If you are interested in World War II as much as I am, check out our other channel, the World War II newspaper channel. Expand the description section to this video and you will see a link that will take you there. Now I'd suggest listening to the latest upload to decide if it's your thing. Over there, you will hear the Chicago Tribune read to you for between 90 minutes to 2 hours. You will get a much more detailed look about what it was like to actually live through World War II than I can give you just by sharing radio broadcasts. You will not only hear detailed news of the big battles and historical events, you will hear trivial facts about the war. You will hear news from the United States home front from the early stages of U.S. mobilization and war protests to Pearl Harbor and the ramping up of the war machine to the final victories and reconversion. You will hear every facet of American life change forever. My name is Henry Chap. I'm your host. And let me mention a couple things before I tell you about what we are going to listen to tonight. First off, thank you, Peter and Terry, for your donations to the channel. I will put the funds to good use. And also, I wonder if any of you younger people out there wonder why I narrate the programs as if they are a radio show. Well, back when I started collecting vintage radio broadcasts when I was a freshman in high school back in 1983, I used to record them directly off the air. And and I also used to think, wow, it would be pretty cool to do what the hosts are doing, to play vintage radio broadcasts on the air. Actually, I wanted to be a disc jockey. One of my radio disc jockey idol was Larry Lujak back in the day. I'm sure many of you have heard from him, especially if you're from the Chicago area. But anyway, this is sort of a tribute to those guys. They used to play the old-time radio on nostalgia shows back in the 70s and 1980s, mostly the 1980s because those were my formative years. And I just flat out love doing this. So I really do appreciate you guys inviting me into your home on a nightly basis. I really, really do appreciate that. And I hope that I am a great guest for you. So let me tell you what we're going to listen to tonight now. We are going to start out at 7 in the morning with the news of the world, the World News Roundup is what this program is titled. It is on NBC Blue. And then we have our normal Saturday features, Jungle Jim, Front Page Drama, and Edgar A Guest. The front page drama is titled 20 Days of Terror. And then following those, we have a 10-minute news bulletin. Now, I am not going to tell you what that news bulletin entails. It's going to have to be a surprise, just like the people in 1941 heard it as a surprise. And then following that news bulletin, we are going to do the Your Hit Parade Jukebox. And it's kind of an interesting Your Hit Parade Jukebox. For one, there is a new number one song, but there was a lot of song shuffling this week. Only one new song on the chart, and I think that one was a one-hit wonder, but I'm not 100% positive. So it's a very interesting Your Hit Parade Jukebox. And I know many of you enjoyed that new feature to the channel. So without any further yakking from me, let's click on that old tube radio. That's our time machine. Let's wait for those tubes to warm up. Oh yeah, there they go. That dial is glowing. Let's give this stuff a listen.
Good morning, everyone. Here's the news at home and abroad, brought to you by our staff reporters in London and Berlin and by Earl Godwin in Washington. For our first report, we take you direct to London.
This is John McVeigh in London.
A dispatch from Cairo reaching London less than an hour ago states that British troops have occupied Adawa, 100 miles south of Asmara. For the second night in a row, British bombers last night bombed the German-occupied port of Brest. 6 of heavy bombs were seen to straddle the 2 German warships, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. The ships could be clearly identified in the moonlight, and it is stated that the attack was pressed home with great resolution. Some of the bombing was done from very low level. Several fires started near the vessels and in stores of oil and in warehouses. Attacks were also made on oil stores at Rotterdam and industrial targets in the Ruhr. 1 British plane is missing. German raiders last night made a west coast town their main target. 2 raiders were shot down, 1 by night fighters. And it's possible that a 3rd raider was also destroyed. Casualties and damage in last night's raids are said to be small. We are allowed to say today that the Café de Paris was the well-known London nightclub that received 2 direct hits some weeks ago, while the dance floor was crowded with merrymakers. Harry McElhone, late of Harry's New York bar in Paris, known by name to many Americans, was shaken but uninjured by the explosions that killed many of the staff and customers. He and his son helped administer first aid to the wounded. The other day, I saw one of the new improved Spitfires that the British will be using this spring to batter down German bombers and fighters if the Germans start big daylight raids. The test pilot who was flying it had held several air records before the war. He looked like a movie hero with his blonde, curly hair, but when I saw him in the Spitfire, he was flying at 400 miles an hour, 25 feet above the grass. To put the brand new machine through its test flight paces, he was flying the machine on its side, and the low wingtip seemed to be clipping the grass. As he roared past, he turned the plane upside down. A quiver of his finger would have sent the plane hurtling deep into the earth, but he calmly put it back on its side, then right side up again. The Spitfire idled down till we thought it would stall, and the test pilot touched the throttle, and its pickup reminded you of a jackrabbit that had just had a firecracker set off under its tail. The Spitfire zipped around turns as the test pilot flung it this way or that, until you began to think the pilot could put it through the eye of a needle if he felt like it. That was only one new Spitfire, but a little while before, I had seen many more in all stages of development, from a pile of flat sheets of metal right up to the finished articles, getting their final test flight before the ferry pilots took them off to the Spitfire squadrons. It was the first time that press and radio correspondents had been allowed to visit a fighter factory. You heard that the planes were coming out fast, but that was just what officials told you. It was pleasant to see for yourself that they really are being turned out fast. The great factory buildings are nearly a quarter of a mile long and more than 100 yards wide. Night and day, they are lit by a sort of daylight lighting that is clear without any glare. 30 to 40% of the workers at the machines are women, and the percentage is to be raised as soon as more women can be trained. It was strange to see girls in overalls, some in high heels, standing at the machines that were turning out the shining, perfect pieces of metal that make up the Spitfire. I watched one girl operating a machine that cut a piece of metal in 6 different ways. Her fingers were black with oil, but she was humming to herself as she worked, unconscious of the fact that I was standing behind her. The sound of her humming, the way that she and the rest were working, made you realize again that this is a civilian's war, that the girl at the machine and the young pilot who will someday fling the finished Spitfire against German bombers are doing essentially the same job. The factory is camouflaged. Inside each of the great factory buildings is a line of concrete shelters, and when spotters report bombers overhead, the workers have to move only a few yards to get protection. About 30% of the machines in the entire factory are American, and one long line of them I saw were marked Cincinnati in bold letters. One intricate machine, also American, was a stretching machine. A flat sheet of metal, cut in proper form, is put in place in the machine. The edges of the metal are held, and from underneath, a great block of steel presses against it. While you watch the metal, it is bent into just the right curve to make the upper part of a wing. Brick barriers surrounded the machine to protect it from bomb blast. I asked the works manager how long it took to train the girls, who incidentally work 11 to 12-hour shifts, 6.5 days a week. He said an intelligent woman could learn her job in about 3 weeks. Male foremen set the machine tools in the proper way, and after that, for the women, it's just a matter of being careful. We saw the finished planes being armed. It is no secret, for it has been published in the papers that the new Spitfires carry cannon. and it was easy to imagine what the increased firepower of these new machines would mean. This is John McVane in London, returning you to the National Broadcasting Company in New York.
Next, a report direct from the Reich. Go ahead, Berlin.
Hello, NBC. This is Charles Lanius in Berlin. The reason for the detention of 8 Americans by Berlin police last Wednesday night was made known here today at the American Embassy. The police explanation to embassy officials, I learned, is that the 8 Americans just happened to be picked up in a general roundup of all foreigners in the capital. This, the officials were told, is in line with the extensive tightening up of police regulations for all foreigners in Germany. The police say that there's no special discrimination against the Americans. They were just brought into headquarters for a routine overhaul of their papers. I was told at the embassy today that all of the Americans taken into custody have been released and are now accounted for. In the meantime, Dick Hotlett, the young American newspaper man arrested here on March 15th, is still in jail awaiting trial on a charge of espionage. I understand the case may come up before a special court in about 10 days' time. Japanese Foreign Minister Matsuoka arrived in Berlin yesterday afternoon from his talks in Rome with Senior Mussolini. Soon after his arrival here, he saw Hitler in the presence of German Foreign Minister von Ribbentrop, and it's believed he'll have further conversations with Der Fuhrer before he finally leaves for home. An official on the Wilhelmstrasse said today that Matsuoka's return visit to Berlin was strictly for business purposes. There's to be no celebrations, he said, only plenty of work. The answer of the United States to the German note of protest on the seizure of German ships in American ports was touched on. On the Wilhelmstrasse today, it was said that a partial reply had been received and that more detailed answer is expected here soon. There wasn't much new information on the Yugoslavian crisis. It was said that, generally speaking, the situation remained unchanged. When an official was asked if developments were becoming increasingly sharp, he replied that further sharpening is scarcely possible. He added that for all practical purposes, diplomatic relations with Yugoslavia are almost completely broken off, although formally, the Germans still have relations with the Yugoslavian minister who is still in Berlin. In Belgrade, the German legation is said to be surrounded by a heavy armed guard to prevent incidents. Officials refused to comment on the reports that British troops in Greece were going into Yugoslavia because of the lack of authentic information. However, it was denied that the new Yugoslavian government had sent a special envoy to Rome to see Mussolini. In the German point of view, there's no reason why a special Yugoslav representative should be sent to Rome. News from Yugoslavia takes second place in this morning's Berlin press. The story that the German mayor of a town in Pardani has been killed by Serbs gets a big play, and other tales of anti-German outrages are there. The tone of the press indicates that things are getting hotter for the Germans in Yugoslavia. But most of the top space in the newspapers is given to the announcement that German and Italian troops have retaken the port of Benghazi and that the German report of air activities during the month of March. The German log claims that during 15 night attacks last month, 23 English towns or other important objectives were effectively bombed by strong forces. On each of these nights, it's asserted, hundreds of German machines of all types were over England and Scotland. Several million kilos of high explosives and more than 1 million incendiary bombs were dropped on what is described important war objectives in all parts of the British Isles. On the other side of the ledger sheet, the Germans claim that the British failed to fly into Germany on 17 nights of the month. 2 attacks on Berlin are chalked up to the British. The Germans say they were carried out with only weak formations, while all the other raids were directed against towns in western and northwestern Germany. Today's Supreme Command reports that the total British shipping sunk in March by the Air Force, surface raiders, and U-boats amounts to 718,000 tons. The Air Force gets credit for sinking more than 40 ships, totaling 300,000 tons. The rest goes to U-boats and surface raiders operating on British sea lanes. 18 more ships are said to have been sunk in one convoy yesterday. The High Command says that the British have lost 42 planes since the 1st of April. That's the score for 4 days. 14 planes were shot down in air battles and by anti-aircraft fire, and the other 27 were destroyed on the ground. During the same 4-day period, the Germans admit the loss of 9 planes. According to the High Command, the British in Libya are fleeing toward the north from Benghazi, which German and Italian soldiers took back early yesterday morning. Last night, the harbors of Avonmouth and Great Yarmouth were attacked by what the High Command calls air units of major proportion, but details are lacking. This is Charles Lanius in Berlin. I now return you to NBC in New York.
Now, Earl Godwin reporting from the NBC newsroom in Washington.
Good morning, folks. Regardless of what those Germans told Dick Lanius, or Mr. Charles Lanius, Dick Hartlett, that young UP reporter, according to the view of high officials in this government, is the victim of second-rate Nazi retaliation for this government's action in running down recently a certain Nazi gumshoe agent. And a federal jury in the District of Columbia decided at midnight that the American Medical Association and the District of Columbia Medical Association have violated the Sherman antitrust laws. Actually, that these two professional organizations are trusts in restraint of trade, mind you, trade. They were prosecuted by two vigorous and experienced trust-busting lawyers from the Department of Justice, and the general charge was that the medical associations conspired to restrain and interfere with the work of a cooperative society here known as Group Health, organized among federal employees. Group Health Incorporated is a society of government employees paying $2 a month and get medical service free above that charge. Doctors here and elsewhere, headed by the Chicago headquarters of the American Medical Association, have resented the idea of group health, called it socialized medicine. Many of the doctors were very active. And the profession here in Washington at least, was deeply shocked and shaken when the government termed them a trust and started after them just as if they were the Standard Oil Company. This trial has lasted 8 weeks. In addition to the associations, there were 18 individual doctors in the same boat. But after a very plain hint from the judge, whose name is Proctor, the jury did not include the individual doctors in their findings. This case, of course, will go to the higher courts. It is interesting in these rapidly changing days to recall that the same section of the Department of Justice that went after the doctors with a red-hot poker went after organized labor in the Carpenters Union for alleged violation of the same trust laws, the same restraint of trade. Now, will the same Supreme Court have the same opinion on professional organizations accused of the same restraint of trade, because the Supreme Court said that the labor union wasn't a trust in that case? Well, as the Ford plants close down completely and find evidences of expensive and expansive sabotage in one of the airplane plants there, the National Labor Relations Board here will conduct a hearing on the CIO petition for an election in the Ford River Rouge plant and the Lincoln plant in Detroit. That hearing is scheduled to start today. CIO wants to organize. Ford doesn't want the CIO or any other labor union. Ford's attorney is here, or due here. He will charge communism is at work, and the CIO leader, Mr. Frankenstein, says the communism charge is baseless. Yesterday at his morning press conference, the president, for the first time, said he had reports of communistic activities in the labor field. In the coal mines, the management seems to be the side which stops progress today. Lee Steelman says so. The unions have accepted a temporary arrangement by which they go back to work and settle their disputes. The wage raises, if any, to be retroactive. The management says nothing doing, according to the report we have. And John Steelman, the government conciliator, makes a sharp retort which might indicate that the government is going to crack down in coal, as well as the Alice Chalmers plant in Milwaukee, unless that strike ends soon. And by soon, I would say that the president means about next week. Earl Godwin says goodbye. That's all the news from Washington at this time.
And that's the news at home and abroad up to this moment. For the past quarter hour, we have brought you late news reports from London, Berlin, and Washington. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Presenting the adventures of Jungle Jim. The adventures of Jungle Jim, broadcast weekly over this station, are dramatized from the full-color action pictures to be found in the Comic Weekly, the world's greatest comic supplement that comes to you each week with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. Join the 11 million adults and the 6 million youngsters who enjoy the world's greatest comic and adventure pictures by the world's best artists. Featured in every issue of the Comic Weekly, which comes to you with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. Using a new electric eye detection device, Doc Beard, who is really J7, the master saboteur, traps Jungle Jim in the secret tunnel beneath the plantation house. Gloating in triumph over Jim, Beard boastfully paints a horrible picture which places Jim in the deadly torpedo on its mission of destruction, a journey of swift and sure death. In the meantime, Colonel Barrett has reinforced the original patrol of Canal Zone guards, and they are now rushing at full speed for the dock of Beard's plantation on Gatton Lake.
Well, Eddie, there it is. Objective number 6, as they would say in tactical school. Reconnoiter your enemy's position. Never advance without the greatest amount of information possible.
Are you going wacky?
Then close in with a feint from the front and a surprise attack on the exposed flank.
Yeah, sure, but you're in the Navy now. And if you don't slow that engine down, you'll wind up on the beach out of water, you and your tactics.
I was just reviewing some of the lessons we got at school last week. That instructor said you can apply good tactics to any situation.
Well, apply a little less gas to this tub so as we can stop in the water.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there they are. That girl and the tough Indian... What'd they say his name was?
Kolu.
Kolu. What kind of lingo did he get that handle? Why, it sounds like a girl's name.
Well, he don't fight like one. Remember that rumpus we saw him in on the lawn?
Yeah, but it was Miss St. John who fixed that one up. She popped that other guy on the head with a rock. She sure is some gal. I wonder how come she gets herself mixed up in a situation like this.
Boy, oh boy, what you don't know about women.
Huh?
They love excitement. Some of them are much better fitted for these kind of adventures than men are.
Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I sure do like to see a woman butting around a home. Not fussing with spies and such. Miss St. John's okay anyway.
Come on, lovesick. Get that landing hook and be ready to make fast the dock.
Okay. Hello there.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. We thought you'd never get over to our side of the lake.
Well, we came as fast as that tub would land us. There's another boatload on the way. Oh, here they come now.
Easy there. How do you do, Miss St. John? Compliments of Colonel Barrett.
How do you do? Seems that whenever I get into trouble, I just have to turn around, and there are my favorite canal guards.
Oh, Miss St. John, you don't know how glad we ought to be of assistance to you.
I never did have time to thank you boys properly for the last time when you rescued me from that shark, Mr.
Sergeant Huff, ma'am. And this is Private Dave Jordan.
He's just acting Sergeant Huff, Miss St. John.
Well, I'm sure glad to meet you both formally, but we have our work cut out for us.
Well, we have orders to take any and all commands from you. So what do you want done, Miss St. John?
Well, that is, Jim, Colo, and myself, are up against a gang of cutthroat saboteurs whose aim is the destruction of the Panama Canal.
Well, why didn't you call us sooner? We'd have come any time you said the word.
Quiet, you. The lady's talking.
Well, Jungle Jim set the hour for me to call you, and you fellows know that orders must be obeyed. He's down in the tunnel now and left word that if he didn't return by 3 o'clock, to call you. Well, here you are, and very welcome, too.
What's he doing down in the tunnel?
That's what we've got to find out first.
Whose tunnel, miss?
Will you quit asking silly questions? A tunnel is a tunnel. What difference does it make as to who it belongs to?
The tunnel was built by Doc Beard and connects the house with a huge natural cave containing, among other things, an immense workshop. There, Beard is building the world's largest torpedo, in which he hopes to blow up the Gatton Dam.
Missy St. John.
Yes, Colo, what is it?
Missy Kitty. I just want to make sure that Pedro's still tied up. He be very quiet.
David and Don, this is Jungle Jim's assistant, Colo.
Howdy, Colo.
Hiya, Colo.
Yes.
Who's this Pedro?
The half-breed leader of a renegade bunch who are evidently on the payroll of Beard.
You got him tied up?
Yes, Colo had to do a little job on him for my sake.
He be right up there in Sun Pit. by big black rock.
You want us to do anything with him, miss?
Don, I think we should have him brought up to the house and locked up. Then we should go over to the whole place with a fine-tooth comb and lock up any of Beard's gang.
Okay, miss. Hey, you, Riley.
Yes, sir.
Crowley.
Yeah?
Squatters. Up that house.
Okay.
Search it thoroughly and bring anyone you find to me. Come on the W, fellas.
Hey, what about this fella, Jungle Jim? Don't we want to find out where he is?
I have a funny feeling about Jim for a few hours now. I'll be a lot happier when I see him safe and sound.
Let's go then, ma'am. You just give us directions.
First, we've got to make sure that none of Beard's gang left in the house before we go down in the tunnel. The entrance is through a cellar of the house. Why, one of his men armed with a machine gun, and they've got plenty of them, could hold all of us in that tunnel for a week.
Okay. Come on, let's clean up the house first. Now, wait a minute. Better still, I'll leave 6 men here with you, Miss St. John, and suppose Kolu shows the rest of us the way into the tunnel.
Okay, Don, I'll stay here.
Oh, yeah? You'll come with me. We got work to do.
But-
And furthermore, Miss St. John has plenty of protection without you.
Well,
Thank you, Dave, but I'm sure I'll be all right.
All right, fellas. Now, you 3 stay here and don't ask any questions. Just take anybody you see prisoner and hold them when we get back. Kolu, you show us the way into the tunnel.
Right this way, Mr. Sergeant.
Goodbye, Miss St. John.
Goodbye.
goodbye.
And good luck.
Beard and his workmen are making feverish preparations for the launching of the giant torpedo. Jungle Jim is bound to an iron ring in the rock wall of the cave and is utterly helpless. He can do nothing but think to himself. Where is Kolu? Did Kitty give the signal? Where are Colonel Barrett's canal guards? But he never gives up hope of making some sort of deal with Beard, trying in every way to delay as long as possible the moment when that terrible machine of destruction will be loosed at the Panama Canal. Red Johnson is standing guard over Jungle Jim.
Well, Boy Scout, you tried your good deed, but you'll never get a decoration for the result.
Look, Red, why are you, supposedly an American, working with this Beard and his bunch of saboteurs?
There ain't much choice. What could I do? He's got a bunch of guys that are as crazy as I think he is right now.
You could do plenty, Red. And furthermore, it'd be well worth your while. I can promise you that.
You can promise anything, but right now you ain't got much chance of delivering. Get me, big boy?
Look, Red, you loosen these ropes right now, and I'll promise not to move till the guard is changed. Then my escape will not be your responsibility.
We'd never get away with that on Beard. He may be crazy on one subject, but he's not a dope altogether. No, I don't think I'm interested.
Would you be interested in having the G-men lay off you and be able to return to the United States? Not as a fugitive, but as a free man?
What do you know about that? They haven't got anything on me. They can't prove nothing.
Maybe they can't. But you left the States just the same. Now, if you were to do a favor for the military intelligence, that is, help me to freedom, boy, you'd be surprised at the weight that would carry with the Department of Justice. You see, then, Red, we'd both be free.
Yeah, you might at that. But I got to worry about Beard. He's a tough apple. Think no more of a guy's life than a flea. No, I don't think we can make a deal.
What do you want, Red? Money?
Well, I never found a time when I couldn't use some.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Red. I'll give you $10,000 just to loosen these ropes.
Uh-huh. You don't happen to have that on you in cash, do you?
Don't be foolish.
I was just thinking. Doc Beard might give me $15,000 to tie you up again.
All right, Red. I'll make it 15.
Bud, you bought something. Maybe it's the right thing to do anyway. Yeah. It's a funny thing, Bradley. I really believe you. It ain't often that a guy like me does the right thing.
You'll never regret it, Red. Now, just loosen the knots so as I can work the ropes off when the other guard comes on.
Okay, guy, but remember, it's 15 G's, and no kidding.
No kidding, Red. You'll get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we was just discussing the Yankees' chance for the pennant this year, boss.
I don't think Jim is interested in future history, Red. He's going to make history with a big noise, and very soon. Very soon.
Well, Doc, it seems as though you've won the last round.
It was inevitable, Bradley. Our organization was so thorough, our plans so deeply thought out and complete. We couldn't fail just because an upstart like you with your so-called Yankee ingenuity came on the scene. Someday your Americans may find out how important planning really is. Until then, you're not a race to be feared in international affairs.
Well, Doc, there's some loose ends of my affairs I'd like to clean up. A few letters and some instructions to my lawyer, things like that. Could I write them now?
Why, surely, Bradley. Red, get some writing things and let Mr. Jungle Jim Bradley write anything he wants.
Yeah.
Because soon we'll enter that torpedo. It will glide down into Gatton Lake. You, Mr. Jungle Jim Bradley, will die for your country. I will die for mine. But you will die in vain. While Beard was taunting Jungle Jim after interrupting the attempted rescue by Red, Kolu and a troop of canal guards are warily feeling their way through the maze of tunnels connecting the house with the secret underground workshop.
Be this way. Keep head low. Many heavy wood, timber, hold up roof.
All right, men. Follow us and quietly, understand?
Can you imagine a place like this? A subway right in our canal zone. We didn't know a thing about it.
Well, we're going to find out plenty before we leave it.
How far we got to go, Colton?
Please, walk quiet. We make in 10 minutes. No run. Make too much noise.
You hear that? Quiet, you fellas.
All right, okay, Sergeant. Go ahead.
No. Not be that way. That old tunnel block by landslide. Here, turn right, keep heads down. There. See light ahead. That be Beard's cave.
A shot resounds in the lighted cave. Who caused it? Has Red enabled Jungle Jim to escape? Will Kolu and the guards arrive in time? Don't miss the next exciting episode of The Adventures of Jungle Jim. Remember, you can follow these adventures in the full-color action pictures to be found in the Comic Weekly, the world's greatest comic supplement containing the best full-color adventures and comic pictures. Remember, no other comic supplement can give you the top names of Cartoonland, like the all-star favorites to be found in the Comic Weekly. The whole family follows the fun and frolics of Jiggs and Maggie and the Little King and the immortal Donald Duck, as well as the exciting adventures of Jungle Jim and Flash Gordon. Join the 11 million adults and the 6 million youngsters who every week find the greatest of home entertainment in the Comic Weekly, which comes to you with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. More thrilling adventures of Jungle Jim will be heard at this time next week over this station. Be sure to tune in.
Front Page Dramas. The Roar of the Presses,
Every week, these giant presses roll and keep rolling at tremendous speed, 15,000 an hour, until every last one of the 7 million copies of the American Weekly has gone through in full color. Great fiction. Interesting features. Factual articles. Color illustrations. All these are found in every issue of the American Weekly. All these go to make up the nation's reading habit, another name for the American Weekly, which comes to you every week with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. This is the saga of old Bill Jones, one of those iron men who sailed before the mast in those immortal Yankee clippers. The story of his fight for life in the dreaded Sargasso Sea, that foul spot in the Atlantic, where the mighty ocean's currents drag great masses of clinging weeds and gather them into a tremendous thick tangle in a sort of gigantic whirlpool, where all the winds and currents center and suck into the morass all the old derelicts and victims of the storms at sea. Bill Jones was first made aboard the Florida, a sailing vessel of some 900 tons, bound for Baltimore with a load of ironwood and palm oil gathered from West African ports. About 400 miles due east, the ship ran into a terrific hurricane. How's things up above? Where's that? There's no hope now. The boats are all smashed. We haven't got a chance to weather it now. It's going up fast. The water's filled the hold. That ironwood will drag us down like a stone. I've got all hands lashing a raft together. We've got stores of beef and biscuit and fresh water made fast to it. Bill, then what? Then we'll abandon ship. There's one chance in 1,000 that any of us will get out of this, but let's try it and trust to the Lord. All right, Bill, let's go. Come on. My head. What happened? Where are we?
We got a bad blow on the back of the head. That last heavy sea washed us overboard. Luckily, you were tangled up in a heavy line and it was lashed to the raft. When it slid over, it came right side up and towed you along. I climbed aboard and dragged you up and made you fast.
I owe you my life now.
Oh, forget that. Here, take a little of this brandy. Give you strength. You're going to need it.
Yeah, that helps. What say, where in the name of holy heaven are we? What's all that stuff?
Weeds, Seth, weeds. Thick, tangled weeds. We're in the Sargasso Sea.
And it's crawling, alive with crabs, eels, insects.
Yeah.
Seth, look! There to the south. Look, a ship. By the saints above. You're right. I'll pull off my shirt and signal her. I'll go. Ahoy! Ahoy there! Ahoy there! These weeds are closing in tighter around us now, Bill. Suppose that ship is held fast in this ugly mess.
Well, keep pushing and shoving, Seth. I can make her out quite plain now. She must have been a fairly good three-master. I think I can read her name now. The Radcliffe. Home port, Bristol. Ahoy there! Ahoy aboard there! It's no use, Seth. There can't be anyone on her.
She don't look to be in such bad shape, Bill. Maybe if she's abandoned,
we could board her. Put her in ship shape and sail her back to port. Come on, Seth. Let's get to work and row this raft alongside.
Can't stand it. Can't stand it. I tell you, I'll go crazy. Crazy.
Easy now, Seth. Easy. Don't let yourself go.
I won't. It's a mockery. It's a life among death, day after day, night after night. This sullen, oppressive silence. The very air of death, that's what it is. And then the stench from those rotting hulks. Ghost ships manned by skeletons of dead men.
Listen, man, don't give way to it. We're going to get out of this.
It's fool's talk. That's what it is. We're trapped. Trapped just like that old Spanish galleon over there. It's been trapped for hundreds of years. We can't get away.
Hold on, Seth. Now listen to me. Listen. Pay attention to every word I say. If you don't, we're lost.
Hey, Bill, I'm all right now. Go on, go ahead.
All right, look. There's a long boat floating by upside down.
What?
The current and suction of the weeds are holding it alongside her. You see that?
Hey, a longboat over the side there.
All right, now listen. Here's my plan. Tie a line around my waist, and I'm going to dive over the side. You stay up here on deck and hold the other end of the line fast. You hear me? Do you understand?
Yes.
But, all right, now listen carefully now. I'm going to make the line fast to that boat. And then you run your end through this block and windlass. You had that?
Aye, Bill, I do.
I tied another line fast to that stump of the mainmast and dropped the end over the side so I can haul myself up again.
Right you are, Bill.
All right. That's the idea, Seth. Come on. We'll fasten the mast to her. Yeah. Small lug sail. Yeah. Take the compass and chronometers out of here, and we can sail her away. All right, Bill. All right. All right. Hi, Marty. Here. There's the longboat here. Yeah. All right. Give me that line. I'll tie it around my waist. Here we are. Now, you play it out as I tell you. All right. Right there. Stand by, Seth. Over I go. Yeah. All right. All right. Lay out the line, Seth. Aye, Bill. She's coming. I'm making the line fast now. Lay out a little more line. All right. Easy now. That's the ticket. She made fast, Bill. Just a minute. Aye, Seth. All right, I'm coming aboard again. Stand by to haul away. Haul away, Seth. Haul away. Well, how do you like it, Seth? I'd never think she was the same slimy old longboat full of weeds and crabs and eels we hauled out of the water 2 days ago. No, sir, Bill. She sounds $1, trim and neat as a yacht. That's a mighty fine paint job on her, too. Everything's loaded aboard now. All right. Let's blow her away, Seth. Come on. There's launched. Hey. All right, over we go now. All right, shovel off, Seth. All right. Goodbye, Radcliffe of Bristol. You've been a good old ship, and we hate to leave you. Hoist the lugsail, Bill. The breeze is freshening. Aye, aye, Seth. Away we go. Poor man, boy. Don't give up now. The weeds. The weeds. We're leaving the weeds behind. Poor man. I don't know, but it appears better to me. Don't he to you, Eli? Yep. By Joshua, he ought to. This is 40 hours he's been like this. Time he took a turn for the better. Poor man, poor. See, out of the nor'west to full rigger, we've got the signal and we've got... I don't know what them two have been through, Eli, but I'm telling you here and now, it must have been a heller. Sure left its mark on him. Yep, anything that could break a man of his physique down must have been something awful. Where am I? Seth. Here he is. Hand me that glass. We'll force a little more of this between his lips. Where am I? Where? Now, easy, man, easy. Here, take a little bit of this. Open your mouth. Yeah, that's better. Did we make it? Yep, you made it all right. You're safe aboard the Nantucket Clipper. Bound for home. Newburyport. Newburyport. Oh, thank heaven. Thank heaven. You have just heard the front page drama, 20 Days of Terror, one of the many dramatic and colorful stories told in the concluding installment of When the Yankee Clipper Ruled the Seven Seas, written by Captain Dave Landers, one of the last of the old Yankee Clipper captains who has been retelling his many adventures each week in the American Weekly. Now we have another dramatic and highly important feature for you. Please listen. No, you can't do this to me. This is an outrage. I am a respectable citizen. Never been arrested in my life. What do you mean by treating me like a criminal?
Carelessness is a crime, and you are guilty of arson, sabotage, yes, and even murder.
Why, how dare you make such accusations? Where are you? Who are you?
I am the voice of the forest, the voice of the millions of trees destroyed each year by people like you, the voice of the countless birds, animals, and unfortunate wildlife who die when their homes are devastated by thoughtless, careless people like you. I speak for the thousands of your fellow citizens whose homes, property, and recreation are wiped out. I accuse you in the name of the hundreds of brave men who toil in the blazing heat, the blinding smoke, who risk their lives and sometimes die in the flaming holocaust you create.
I tell you, I'm innocent of such dastardly crimes. I wouldn't think...
That's just it. You wouldn't think. So let me take you back to that hot, dry, sultry day last August. You and your family are driving through the woods. Leisurely, you smoke your cigarettes. You've had a swell day, good fishing, a picnic. Your wife and children in the back seat are tired and happy. Now you take one last puff from the cigarette. What are you going to do with it? No! Don't do that! Too late. You've thrown it out of the car window, right to those pine cones and needles. You thoughtlessly drive on, but let me show you now what you left behind. The cigarette butt smolders a while, and then... it bursts into flames. You see how quickly the flames are spreading, leaping into the brushwood, licking it up the tree trunk.
sisters have been enlisted in the fierce battle now being waged to fight the most devastating forest fire the state has experienced.
That is your work. You who protest his innocence, who calls himself a patriotic, respectable citizen, you are guilty of the worst of all crimes, carelessness and thoughtlessness.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a grim picture, but one that must be forcibly impressed upon the mind of every citizen. And with this commendable thought in mind, the American Weekly is cooperating with the United States Forest Service of the Department of Agriculture in next Sunday's issue of the American Weekly. First, there is the front cover, a faithful reproduction of a striking painting in full color depicting a crew of firefighters at work in a burning forest. This colorful work of art was painted expressly for the American Weekly in cooperation with the United States Forest Service by the distinguished American artist, James Montgomery Flagg. This impressive painting will also be reproduced on 300,000 posters to be distributed to government, civic, and patriotic agencies throughout the country by the Forest Service of the United States Department of Agriculture. There will also be a very timely and educational feature article entitled Why Forest Defense is National Defense by Earl Clapp, Acting Chief Forest Service, together with a foreword by the Honorable Claude R. Wickard, Secretary of Agriculture. Your family should see these two outstanding features in next Sunday's issue of the American Weekly. So remember, order and insist upon the Hearst Sunday newspaper that brings you the American Weekly.
It takes a heap of living in a house to make it home, a heap of sun and shadow.
From the land of the sky, blue water.
The makers of Land O'Lakes Sweet Cream Butter present Edgar A. Guest with Eddie Howard. A bit of music, a bit of verse, a bit of common sense to make your next 15 minutes a bit brighter.
From the land of the sky, blue water.
This was done, years ago after a long, hard, disagreeable winter. Even the conversation of the men had turned gloomy. Those foreboders of evil that sit around and think the world is surely coming to an end. Well, the year had been difficult, and there had been loss, but still I couldn't believe that the end of the world was at hand, as they seemed to predict. And then the spring came, and along with the warm weather, the tulips came into bloom. It struck me as I looked at her, as a bed, that there wasn't one of them seemed to know that there was anything at all the matter with the world. Hello, tulips. Don't you know stocks today are very low? You appear so bright and glad. Don't you know that trade is bad? You are just as fair to see as you were in times when we rolled in money. Tell me how you can look so happy now. Hello, tulips white and red, gleaming in the garden bed. Can it be you haven't heard all the grief which has occurred? Don't you see the saddened eye of the human passerby? By his frowning can't you tell things have not been going well? Hello, tulips in the sun. You are lovely, everyone, but I wonder why don't you wear a sad expression, too? Can it be you fail to see things aren't what they used to be? This old world is all upset. Why don't you begin to fret? And they answered me, hello, nothing's altered that we know, warm the sun and sweet the rain. Summer skies are blue again, birds are singing, and we nod grateful tulip prayers to God. Only mortals fret and strive. We are glad to be alive.
Tiptoe to the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Tiptoe from your pillow to the shadow of a willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me. Knee-deep in flowers we'll stray, we'll keep the showers away, and if I kiss you in the garden, in the moonlight, will you pardon me? Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
I suppose the best way to learn whether or not butter is good is to taste it. And the next best way is to get the opinion of dairymen who really know. I've been trying both ways. My own taste tells me Land O'Lakes sweet cream butter is as fine a product as I've ever eaten. And the men who have devoted their lives to the industry tell me that it is an excellent product. I've yet to hear anyone say an unkind word about it. So I'm convinced Land O'Lakes is an organization constantly striving for the best. I wonder what happens to the boy of 14 when the body which held that glorious spirit grows up, enters manhood. I've argued it out with people. I've got friends who say that the boy disappears entirely when the man appears. Personally, I argue back that the boy never entirely disappears. My own case, I know he's still hanging around. Oh, never comes the circus with its wonders into town, but I recall a little boy who longed to be a clown. And high above the heads of all, an acrobat I see, that little lad of long ago was hopeful he would be. No care had he for words that rhyme. A more entrancing thing was jumping on and off a horse within a sawdust ring, and all the verses ever penned he'd gladly trade back then to be that spangled hero in the roaring lion's den. There was a riding lady in a fluffy skirt of pink who might have lured this little boy away from printer's ink, but destiny or fortune or the fates, or was it Dad, contrived to change the life work of this circus-dreaming lad. He would not now retrace his steps. Through eyes now growing dim, he sees an acrobat's career would not have done for him. But still, when bands are playing and the circus barkers shout, a little boy of 58 walks wide-eyed round about.
When the circus came to town, all the clowns were tumbling down. The tigers roared, the lions looked bored, and the man in back yelled peanuts, lemonade, and popcorn, Cracker Jack a prize in each and every pack. Oh, the monkey got away, grabbed a man by his toupee. The old folks smiled, the kids went wild, and the man in back yelled, peanuts, lemonade, and popcorn, cracker jack a prize in each and every pack. The acrobats gave us a fright. You closed your eyes and held me tight. Someone laughed, we turned around. The crowd was laughing at you and me, but we didn't even care. When they all began to stare, we hugged and squeezed, the elephant sneezed, and the man in the back yelled, peanuts, lemonade, and popcorn, cracker jack a prize in each and every pack. When the circus came to town.
I think you ladies will all agree a hostess' task of preparing a dinner or luncheon is a much more difficult one during the warm weather than in winter. Yes, hot weather can certainly play havoc with the best planned meals. Take butter, for instance. When you take that butter out of the refrigerator, in no time at all it begins to get soft and starts to melt. And that's true of all butter. But what about the taste? Ah, that's where Land O'Lakes sweet cream butter comes in. You see, unlike most butter churned from sour cream, only fresh sweet cream is ever used in churning Land O'Lakes. Then, even if the butter does get soft and melt, you don't get any sharp, strong taste, only the country flavor of fresh, sweet cream. That's why so many housewives prefer Land O'Lakes to any other butter. Just try it. Try it the very next time you order butter. Once you do, you'll never want to use any other. Ask your grocer for Land O'Lakes sweet cream butter.
They took the moonlight out of the skies and put the moonlight right in your eyes. Like a June night, you're a heavenly thing. They took the fragrance out of the dew and sprinkled roses all over you. Like a garden, you're a heavenly thing. They made a clinging vine, your embrace, stars that shine light your face. To combine everything, on your lips they put a breath of spring, and then they finished, called it a day. They took the model, threw it away. Like an angel, you're a heavenly thing.
Eddie Howard, she'd like your version better than mine. Here's the reverse of that heavenly thing business. Years ago, I picked up the paper, and some California professor had publicly announced that it was his belief after years of study that a husband is heaven's gift to woman. I laughed when I read it because I thought that fellow was either one of two things. He was either the bravest man in the world or he was a bachelor. I read it to her, and what she said I'm not now going to repeat, but this is what I did. Does your gift from heaven give you all the money that you need? Does he bring home men for dinner when but two you'd planned to feed? Does your gift from heaven always do exactly as he should? Does he hang up his pajamas or just leave him where he stood? As a husband, have you thought him in his manners rather slack? Well, he's now your gift from heaven. Would you like to send him back? Does your gift from heaven, lady, stay out rather late at night? Does he grumble in the morning if the coffee isn't right? Does he whistle while he's shaving? Does he toss his things about? When you make a bid at contract, does he always take you out? Does he frequently annoy you by the silly things he'll do? Then remember, little lady, he is heaven's gift to you. A scientist has told us that he thoroughly believes a husband is a present which from heaven the wife receives. And I know the men will hail him as a friend, but I shall fear to quote my heavenly rating, for I know she'll say, my dear, you may be a gift from somewhere, but you can't be heaven sent. The professor's made an error. 'Twas the other place he meant.
From the land of the sky, blue water.
You have been listening to the poems of Edgar A. Guest and the songs of Eddie Howard. And remember, good butter always adds the final flavor touch to any meal. So, for goodness sakes, buy Land O'Lakes, will you? This is Vincent Pelletier speaking.
From the land of the sky, blue water.
4 lines about those slanderous things they call candid camera pictures. The candid camera seems to me just like the candid friend to be. Both try to publish far and wide the dreadful truth we'd rather hide.
Delaying the announced program, the National Broadcasting Company brings you a special broadcast from overseas. In just a moment, you will hear Lowell Edwards speaking to you direct from Belgrade, Yugoslavia.
Hello, NBC. This is Lovett F. Edwards, calling from Belgrade, Yugoslavia. I am speaking from a city under the shadow of war, a city of high heart and high courage. For the last 3 nights there have been trial blackouts. They come with startling suddenness. The electric current is cut off at the source, and cafes and restaurants are plunged in total blackness. Everyone is trying to buy electric torches. Already they are almost unobtainable. Fighter planes fly low over the capital day and night. The people rush into the streets to watch them. Although Belgrade will be declared an open town in the event of war, they give a sense of security. Shops and factories are closing down as young men and old are called to the frontiers. They go singing, for they are convinced that there are some things worth fighting for. And these are personal freedom and state independence. It was to keep these that the coup d'etat of March the 27th was engineered against a weak-kneed government of capitulation. If Yugoslavia has to fight, it will be to preserve them. Neither the government nor the people want war. Who does? But they are prepared for it, while still hoping for a just and honorable peace. The pressure from without has consolidated the country from within. A leading politician told me the 27th of March has saved the situation. The Croat leader, Dr. Macic, has returned to Belgrade and taken the oath as vice premier in the new government. He quotes the words of Christ, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and openly says that he has come to save peace if he can. But there is little likelihood that he will succeed. It may be that there will be some days of respite. But unless a last-minute miracle happens, the crisis will come in the next few days. There is still a chance that this miracle may take place, but it is a slim one. Probably the key to the situation lies with little, literary-looking Ivo Andrich, Yugoslav minister in Berlin. The terms of his answer to the German statesman are not known, but they are understood to include an apology for any damage or insult suffered by German nationals, and a proposal to recognize all public and open treaties. This would, of course, exclude the secret clauses of the pact signed by the late government. Today, a German report says that Mr. Andrich is returning to Belgrade, but whether finally or for further discussions is unknown. There are also rumors of the departure of the new foreign minister, Mr. Nincic, for Italy, but these too are unconfirmed. In Belgrade itself, the signs are none too good. The long, shuttered facades of the German and Italian legations now shelter only 2 diplomats apiece. The Bulgarians are said to be preparing for evacuation. It is interesting, however, to note that the Hungarians have made no move, and official Hungarian circles even deny that any preparations have been made. The other side of the picture is even more striking. Railway travel has been drastically curtailed, though tonight the personal restrictions were withdrawn. It only needs the chiming of the church bells and the beating of drums to put the final touches on general mobilization. The streets are filled with long lines of horses and peasant carts mobilized for the needs of the army. Most of them are headed south. The morale of the people is excellent. They face whatever the future may bring with a quiet confidence. Most of them are totally unaware of the diplomatic parleying still going on and look only at the German concentrations on the Hungarian frontier, which may be preparations for an invasion, but may, on the other hand, be only another move in the now familiar war of nerves. It is difficult to feel other than confident among these people, kind-hearted, cordial, but tough as they are made, and with a passionate devotion to their country and a belief in its military leaders. The appointment of the old Marshal Boyevich, the last surviving voivode of the Great War, as Inspector General of the Armed Forces in succession to Prince Paul, has excited both pleasure and satisfaction. In the event of war, the Premier, General Simovic, will probably take over the supreme command himself, in the manner of the Greek Metaxas. Both proved themselves in the past to be good soldiers. The command of the armies in the field will probably be entrusted to General Dmitry Zhivkovich. The press and radio campaign has had remarkably little effect on the Yugoslav people. It has annoyed them, of course, and has caused a certain amount of apprehension. But the statements are so easily disproved that no one takes them really seriously. There is a journalist expedition to the so-called burnt-out villages tomorrow, but most of the participants regard it as an excuse for a pleasant day's trip. The inhabitants of the villages themselves, peaceful Serb, German, and Romanian peasants, who never listen to a radio and seldom open a newspaper, are astounded at the excitement they are causing. The common people still place much hope on Soviet pressure to prevent war. They have a sentimental feeling for Russia, quite independent of the nature of the regime in that country. But so far, though rumors are right, there is little indication what the Soviet will do. The Moscow Pravda has had fair words for the Serbs and their tradition of independence, but fair words are little use at the present juncture. There are also rumors of a joint Yugoslav-Turkish-Soviet declaration of defensive neutrality, and some color is given to them by the recent diplomatic journeyings of Dr. Milan Gavrilovich, Yugoslav minister to Moscow, who has now returned to his post after a hurried plane trip to Ankara. But so far, these reports have scarcely passed the domain of rumor, and in any case, such a declaration would be of very little use unless backed up by adequate sanctions. Italian intervention has taken a more definite form, and Signor Mameli, the Italian minister in Belgrade, has recently spent much time at the Foreign Office. The government still places some hope in this intervention, but it is only too well known that Rome takes its political coloring from Berlin. Rome circles regard another Balkan conflict as the least logical, the least desirable, and the least justified solution of the present problem. It is quite clear that Mussolini is afraid for the fate of his legions in Albania, who, in the event of war, would be caught between two determined armies. It remains to be seen whether Berlin will be equally considerate of their fate. I now return you to the National Broadcasting Company of New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the past few moments, you have been listening to NBC reporter Lowell Edwards speaking to you direct from Belgrade, Yugoslavia. We take you now to San Francisco.
Buenas tardes y buenas noches, señoras, señoritas y caballeros. Good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From San Francisco's colorful new dining and dancing rendezvous, La Marimba Club, located on Broadway just above Powell, in the heart of San Francisco's North Beach, NBC is sending your way music in the Latin American tempo by the world-famous Hurtado Brothers Guatemala Marimba Band, directed by Celso Hurtado. And we're dancing first at the cocktail hour with the rumba El Manacero.
Your Hit Parade. The top tunes all over America as determined by Your Hit Parade survey, which checks the best sellers in sheet music and phonograph records, the songs most heard on the air, and the songs most played on the automatic coin machines. An accurate, authentic tabulation of America's taste in popular music. Your Hit Parade.
I'm Henry Chapp with a pocket full of nickels for the Hit Parade Jukebox. Let's count them down. There is quite a bit of song shuffling this week. Only 2 songs stayed in the same spot from last week, and many have moved several spaces on the chart. Not only that, there is a new #1 song. The only song that has left the chart this week, it was only on the chart 1 week and was #9 last week. Here is Oh Look at Me Now by the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra with Frank Sinatra and Connie Haynes on the vocals.
I'm not the guy who cared about love, and I'm not the guy who cared about fortunes and such. Never cared much.
Oh, look at you now.
I never knew the technique of kissing. I never knew the thrill I could get from your touch. Never knew much.
Oh, look at you now. You're a new man, better than Casanova at his best.
With a new heart, a brand new start, I'm so proud I'm busting my vest.
So you're the guy who turned out a lover.
Yes, I'm the guy who laughed at those blue diamond rings. One of those things.
But look at you now.
He's not the guy who cared about love, and he's not the guy who cared about fortunes and such. Cared about much, but look at him now. I'm a lover. He never knew the technique of kissing. He never knew the thrill he could get from her touch. Never knew much, but look at him now. Man, I really come on.
He's a new man, better than
Casanova at his best rider.
with with a new start, a brand new heart.
He's so proud he's busting his vest. So he's the guy who turned out a lover. So he's the guy who laughed at those blue diamond rings. One of those things.
But look at me now.
He's a new man, better than Casanova. At his best, he's got some new jive and it's really fine.
Why, I'm so proud I'm busting my vest.
He's a lover. Yes, we know he's a lover. Yes.
I laughed at those blue diamond rings. Just one of those things.
But look at him now.
Jack, I'm ready.
Look at him now.
Our song taking the biggest drop this week, all the way from number 3 to number 10, is a former number 1 song and has been on the charts since last November. Here is Frenesy by the Artie Shaw Orchestra. A song making its debut on the chart this week at number 9 is by a songbird from Zanesville, Ohio, who has been performing since the age of 3. She is 26 years old. Her style kind of sounds like that of Billie Holiday. Here's Una Mae Carlisle. She is Walking by the River.
There's dew up on the ground, 'cause I'm meeting someone there tonight. I hear a distant sound. I see a far-off light. I'm walking by the river 'cause I'm meeting someone there tonight. Murmuring waters say there's no time to delay. Hurry on your way, my friend. If you don't get there soon, there may not be a moon to guide you to that happy end. My heart is riding high. My blues have taken flight, and I'm walking by the river 'cause I'm meeting someone there tonight. There's no time to delay, so hurry on your way, my friend. If you don't get there soon, there may not be a moon to guide you to that happy end. My heart is riding high. My blues have taken flight, and I'm walking by the river 'cause I'm meeting someone there tonight.
One of only two songs holding steady in their chart positions from last week is our number 8 song. Asking that age-old question, who, is The Wise Old Owl by Al Donahue's orchestra.
You'd say goodbye. That old bird must have known that tonight he and I would be under the moon alone. Maybe I'll find a new love. That's what I should do. But the wise old owl in the old oak tree says
Number 7 this week drops from number 4 last week. Let's get high on that windy hill with the Gene Krupa Orchestra.
High on a windy hill, I feel my heart stand still. Oh, I can hear you calling my name. Into a misty blue, I go in search of you. There in the shadows, calling in vain. Why are you just beyond me? When will I see your face? Why do you just elude me and leave me this lonely space, oh, into eternity? Your love will beckon me. I can't forget your voice that calls my name. I can't forget your voice that calls my name.
Dropping one spot from number 5 to number 6 is the haunting sounds of Xavier Cugat and Perfidia. Our flashback this week goes back to 1938. You all should know the words. Children have been singing it for 100 years. Here is the Chick Webb Orchestra swinging with Ella Fitzgerald's iconic vocals and a tisket, a tasket.
A tisket, a tasket, a brown and yellow basket. I send a letter to my mommy. On the way I dropped it, I dropped it, I dropped it. Yes, on the way I dropped it. A little girlie picked it up and put it in her pocket. She was trucking on down the avenue, but not a single thing to do. She went peck, peck, pecking all around. When she spied it on the ground, she took it, my little yellow basket. And if she doesn't bring it back, I think that I will die. A tisket, a tasket, I lost my yellow basket. And if that girlie don't return it, don't know what I'll do. Oh dear, I wonder where my basket can be.
Solo-wee, 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 solo-wee.
Oh gee, I wish that little girl I could see.
Solo-wee, 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 solo-wee.
Oh, why was I so careless with that basket of mine? That itty-bitty basket was the joy of mine. A tisket, a tasket, I lost my yellow basket. Won't someone help me find my basket and make me happy again, again?
Was it green?
No, 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 no.
Was it red?
No, 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 no.
Was it blue?
No, 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 no. Just a little yellow basket. A little yellow basket.
Moving up to number 5 from number 6 is the Eddie Dushan Orchestra, and he's watching you walk by.
enchanting as a dream. You walk by and dim the sunlight's gleam. You speak words and shame the birds that sing. Your smile is softer than the touch of spring. You walk children pause at play. You walk by, December seems like May. Heaven is right here and above when you walk by, my love.
Our number 4 song was last week's number 1 song. In fact, it was the last 9 weeks' number 1 song. Here is I Hear a Rhapsody by the Charlie Barnett Orchestra.
And when I hear you call so softly to me, I don't hear a call at all. I hear a rhapsody. And when your sparkling eyes are smiling at me, then soft through the starlit skies, I hear a rhapsody. My days are so blue when you're away. My heart longs for you, so won't you stay? My darling, hold me tight and whisper to me. Then soft through a starry night, I'll hear a rhapsody.
Number 7 last week is number 3 this week, moving up 4 slots in the charts. Here is the Benny Goodman Orchestra, the King of Swing, and There'll Be Some Changes Made.
nothing about me gonna be the same. I'm gonna change my way of living, boy. That ain't enough. Well, then I'll change the way I strut my stuff. Nobody wants you when you're old and gray. There'll be some changes made today. There'll be some changes made.
Our song at the number 2 spot this week was number 2 last week. It's by the Hal Kemp Orchestra, and it is something that I think of several minutes after I've walked into a room, wonder why in the world have I come in there, and finally it all comes back to me now.
Does my heart wander aimlessly the whole night through? It all comes back to me now. A starry summer sky, a laughing you and I alone. It all comes back to me now. A sea of midnight blue, your face uplifted to my own. We called it a thrill of the moment and blamed the moon up above. We didn't know what the glow meant. We never dreamed it might be love. It all comes back to me now. The love I threw away, and now each lonely night I pray that it will all come back to me someday.
Have you been able to guess what our number 1 song is this week? Well, it jumped up 9 slots. Yes, 9 slots. All the way from number 10 last week. Here's Tommy's brother Jimmy, the Jimmy Dorsey Orchestra, and Amapola, Pretty Little Poppy.
A boy found a dream upon a distant shore. A maid with a way of whispering, si, senor. Each night, while guitars would softly play, the tune seemed to dance round the words that he'd say. Amapola, my pretty little poppy, you're like that lovely flower, so sweet and heavenly. Since I found you, my heart is wrapped around you, and loving you it seems to be a rhapsody. Amapola, the pretty little poppy, must copy its endearing charms from you. Amapola, how I long to hear you say, I love you.
Amapola, my pretty little poppy, you're like that lovely flower, so sweet and heavenly. Since I found you, my heart is wrapped around you, and loving you it seems to be a rhapsody. Amapola, the pretty little poppy, must copy its endearing charms from you. Amapola, Amapola, how I long to hear you say, I love you.
And that was our brand new #1 song this week, the week ending April 5th, 1941. My name is Henry Chap. So long for a while.
So long for a while.
That's all the songs for a while.
So long to your hit parade and the tunes that you pick to be played. So
Well, that's the way it was on April 5th, 1941. I'm Henry Chap, your host. I'll tell you what we're going to listen to tomorrow night in just a minute and a half. If you enjoy the content on this channel, not only subscribe, but please donate to its upkeep. Because of the vintage old-time radio, films, and music that we feature, this channel does not qualify for YouTube monetization. Help motivate us to keep posting this wonderful content and seeking out more. We'd like to think that this channel is more interesting than any other nostalgia channel of a similar type. Help us keep going by donating. In the description section of this video, you will find a secure link to PayPal. Any little bit helps. Thank you for your support. If you love old-time radio, film, and music, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as to when a new upload will premiere. If you are interested in World War II as much as I am, check out our other channel, the World War II newspaper channel. Expand the description section to this video and you will see a link that will take you there. Now, I'd suggest listening to the latest upload to decide if it's your thing. Over there, you will hear the Chicago Tribune read to you for between 90 minutes to 2 hours. You will get a much more detailed look about what it was like to actually live through World War II than I can give you just by sharing radio broadcasts. You will not only hear detailed news of the big battles and historical events, you will hear trivial facts about the war. You will hear news from the United States home front from the early stages of U.S. mobilization and war protests to Pearl Harbor and the ramping up of the war machine to the final victories and reconversion. You will hear every facet of American life change forever. Once again, I want to apologize for not having a couple classic movies for you tonight. I just haven't had the time to upload them. Well, I did have the time to upload 2 movies, but one of them got blocked, and that was Blondie Goes Latin. For some reason, it's up on YouTube on other channels, but I couldn't share it, and I am not sure why. I just don't know why. But I have to abide by YouTube's rules, so I won't be able to share that. But you can watch it on another channel if you'd like to see it tonight. That movie was playing in the local downtown Chicago movie theaters on this date, April 5th, 1941. You know, I remember when I was a kid, we used to watch Blondie movies used to be shown on a local TV station. Remember those before all TV stations went kind of national in their sort of way. We used to have a local station that would play Blondie movies actually on Saturday mornings. Actually, it was now it's Fox 32 in Chicago, but it was WFLD Metro Media Communications in Chicago. They used to play Mon Pa Kettle. They used to play Blondie. They used to play the Godzilla movies. Man, it was just some great stuff on Saturday mornings. I remember sitting watching Mon Pa Kettle with my mom and dad and Blondie. Oh man, those were my nostalgic days. These were the late 70s, early 80s. Boy, that was just a great time. Anyway, let me tell you what we're going to listen to tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, April 6th, 1941, and we are going to have the Free Company. Now, we do not have Great Plays. There was no Great Plays program recorded for tomorrow. I couldn't find one anywhere. So, for some reason, maybe somebody dropped the transcription discs and they shattered all over the studio floor. Who knows what happened over the past 80 years or so. Then we have America Looks Abroad, so that's a positive. That's a program we haven't heard from a while. That's I don't know if you'd call it a talk program or a news commentary program, 15 minutes long. They talk about the news. Then we have This Is Wichita, that new drama that we've been playing, that I played last week, that we're going to hear every week now until the end of 1941, when for some reason that program just ceased to exist. So we're going to hear it for another 6 months. And then we have The Shadow, the Jack Benny program, the Screen Guild Theater production of Lucky Partners, and the Columbia Workshop. So a big night of entertainment tomorrow night. And I will be starting it at 8 o'clock because we don't have Great Plays. So we have, well, it's sort of like going to bed after when daylight savings time turns into standard time. We lose an hour, right? So let's turn off this old tube radio. That's our time machine. Until tomorrow, good night. God bless.
This changing world, this changing scene, where is it taking us? What does it mean? As long as we're certain of each other, we know we don't have to be afraid. These changing times we rise above. We have no time for them. We have our love, and love is the only thing that still remains the same through all restless, changing world.
Good morning, Bill Lynch with the CBS World News Roundup. The Pentagon has announced 28 American sailors are dead aboard the USS Stark, the missile frigate hit last night by at least one Iraqi Exocet missile in the Persian Gulf. Several of the injured have been helicoptered to hospitals in Bahrain, and an Air Force medevac plane is en route from Germany. Pentagon correspondent David Martin has the latest.
The Pentagon's worst fears have been confirmed. All 25 men missing and unaccounted for aboard the Stark have now been found dead, bringing the death toll from last night's attack to 28. In addition, 6 men were injured seriously enough to require hospitalization. There is still some confusion in accounting for every last member of the Stark's crew, and Pentagon officials say it is possible the death toll could go still higher. Almost all those killed were in a berthing compartment in the forward part of the ship where the Iraqi missile struck. The missile touched off a number of fires, and it is only in the last few hours that rescuers were able to enter the crew compartment in search of the missing. The names of the dead will not be released until their next of kin have been notified, a grim process already underway in Mayport, Florida, which is the Stark's home port. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
David Tucker of the Gulf Daily News in Bahrain told us this morning the Iraqi pilots apparently never actually saw their target.
The Exocets are fired blind, and that means that the only vision the pilot has inside his cockpit is a blip on his radar screen. The Iraqi pilots who fired the Exocets last night would only have seen the USS Stark as a blip on their screens and would have had no idea what vessel they were firing at.
They assumed that it was a tanker.
Exactly. They assumed it was a tanker, presumably on the Carg Island shuttle run, ferrying oil for Iran.
Tucker dismissed earlier reports from Bahrain that the missile may have been fired from a gunboat. The White House now says Iraq's ambassador in Washington has expressed regret, and an Iraqi spokesman says President Saddam Hussein has ordered a full investigation. The spokesman said if such an attack occurred, it would have been due to confusion by the pilot. Secretary of State Schultz last night demanded an explanation for the attack, which he said the U.S. viewed with great seriousness. Still, U.S. officials stressed the view the attack was accidental. Deliberate or accidental makes little difference to the families of the dead and injured. There were some 200 men on the Stark, and in Anderson, South Carolina, Mary Ackerman awaits word on one of them, her son Tim.
We haven't heard anything. We're just waiting to find out something, and that's all. If we just knew that he was safe.
The Pentagon is asking relatives of Stark crew members to call a toll-free number for information. That number, 1-800-368-3202. The Persian Gulf tanker war continues today. Iranian gunboats attacked a Norwegian supertanker off the Saudi Arabian coast, reportedly setting it afire and causing casualties. The United States won't commit itself yet to an international peace conference on the Middle East. After meeting with Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres, Secretary Schultz said the U.S. is not committed to such a meeting and would support one only if the Israeli government supports it too. There's the rub. While Peres favors the idea, Prime Minister Shamir is dead set against it. 5 days after a military coup, the people of Fiji are still wondering who's in charge, and with good reason. The BBC's Red Harrison told us from Suva, the local radio is putting out conflicting statements.
The Governor-General has issued a statement in which he says the military coup, the military leadership here is illegal and unconstitutional, and he's directed the regime to dismantle itself as quickly as possible. At the same time, we have a statement from the rebel military leader, Colonel Rabuka, that he has been sworn in by the Governor-General as the head of the country. His actual title is Chairman of the Council of Ministers. Well, these two statements are immensely contradictory, but according to the government spokesman, they are both true.
Earlier today, newsman Harrison and a colleague were forced at gunpoint against an alley wall by Fijian soldiers who loaded magazines into their rifles. He was then released, but an Australian broadcasting corporation reporter was ordered to leave Fiji. Today in Suva, the banks are closed to prevent a run on deposits by ethnic Indians whose recent rise to political power prompted the coup by Fijian soldiers. After Peru's President Alan Garcia ordered troops to evict them, striking policemen overnight began leaving barracks and precinct stations. They had occupied those buildings to back demands for an 8-fold increase in their basic pay of $22 a month. For anti-government activists in South Korea, today's date carries much significance.
There were
protests across Korea on this day, marking the 7th anniversary of riots in Gwangju. The protests in 1980 were against government crackdowns on dissent. 7 years later, the issues are strikingly similar. The decision by this nation's ruling party to virtually shut out the opposition when a new president is selected later this year. Police are in the highest state of alert and arrested thousands of dissidents before the weekend, hoping to defuse the expected demonstrations. It didn't work completely. In Gwangju, where the riots in 1980 took almost 200 lives, the relatives of the dead were gathering at a cemetery for special services. They stopped on the way in to burn a car that had a government insignia. Inside, at the services and at individual graves, there were still tears, still anger. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Seoul.
President Reagan today meets President Mario Soares of Portugal. Even here, there's an Iran-Contra connection, as Portugal was one source of arms for the Nicaraguan rebels.
This is Jacqueline Adams at the White House. After first suggesting that the president was totally disengaged from the National Security Council efforts to aid the Contras, the White House has shifted gears. Yes, Mr. Reagan was directly involved, both he and his officials say, even during the period when Congress banned such aid. But the president and his advisors insist that the congressional ban applied only to the CIA, the Pentagon, the State Department, possibly to the NSC, but not to the president himself. This White House effort to create a legal firewall between the president and his staff is absurd, according to constitutional expert, Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe.
He directs the NSC. It acts at his behest. And for the president to say that my agency cannot violate the law, but of course I am free to violate the law, is an argument that I don't think we'd be taking seriously unless it were made by someone as pleasant as Ronald Reagan.
Tribe believes President Reagan may have committed an impeachable offense, but given the president's popularity, Tribe doubts Mr. Reagan will be impeached. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, the White House.
The Iran-Contra hearings enter their third week on Capitol Hill tomorrow with more testimony from Rob Owen, a member of the Contra Support Network. 10 men accused last year of plotting to ship Iran $2 billion in weapons and to insist they had White House approval find out today if they will stand trial. After months of prosecution delays, a New York federal judge has ordered the government to tell him this afternoon if it plans to press the case. The dollar is lower in Europe after closing slightly higher today in Tokyo, the London gold fixing $476.70 an ounce, up over $6. On Wall Street, the Dow Industrials are down 8.95 at this hour at 2263.57. Big board volume 29,130,000 shares. Time on the World News Roundup, 10 minutes past 7.